We've got our 2025 comfort tier list. We've got some new picks and some old classics. So we're going to just jump right into this with one of those leading products, the Steelcase Leap V2.
I mean, we've loved the Steelcase Leap for a long time. I think the biggest thing really for me, and I know for really all three of us, that flexibility. I mean, you can really move around in the chair and never feel like you're locked into one place. That's my favorite thing.
Super versatile as well. A bunch of adjustability out of those armrests, the seat depth, the seat height. Really good for accommodating that 5th to 95th percentile, so it's going to fit most people. Again, love the lumbar support because it has good back support for a wide range of people. You can take that thing out, so for people like me that don't like lumbar support, works great. And then people like Greg that love lumbar support, works good for him as well. So I'm going to be at a S tier.
I think this is the reason why you made the Russian twist, right?
For sure.
Was this the creator of the Russian twist
Yep.
right here? Yeah, I like that flexibility too. This is an easy A for me. I think the only difference is the seat. If it had the Amia seat, we go S tier, but it doesn't, so we're going A.
Yeah, I'm with an A as well. So with 2 A's, Ryan, you were at S, right? We're going to have to go
right.
really high A here. So
You'll A plus.
now we're moving into the Anthros chair. This is maybe one of the most unique chairs in a lot of ways on the list. Cool way how you can kind of dial in both the lower pelvic support and then that upper backrest portion. I do really like that. It takes a little bit to kind of dial it into place, but once it's there, it feels nice.
Well, it's definitely not like a traditional ergonomic chair, right? Because they went away from that thin, firm seat pad design and they really went after a thick seat. But they did put some cutouts in the sit bone area, so you're not really sinking into that seat and kind of dealing with those lower back pain issues that you tend to have with really thick seat cushions. So I do like the chair overall, so I'd be somewhere around a B plus, I'd probably say.
Front edge of the seat pan here. What's
Yeah.
your take on that?
Well, that's why I would bump it down from an A. There's
Okay.
two things that I really don't love about the seat. One, that front edge of the seat, and then the lack of a seat depth, being able to get away from that. And then I do wish that there was a little bit of back height adjustment, just because the gap between the two is a little bit big for me. So if I could bring the gap a little closer, it'd probably be somewhere closer to an A plus, maybe even S.
Yeah, the front of the seat edge for me is a kind of a, it's not a deal breaker, but I'm excited to see this change. And then the arm pads too. They're just a little bit too rounded off for me. But honestly, the seat pad on this thing is amazing. So that paired with the back support, I go B plus.
Yeah, I think I'm right there. B plus. Recline is really nice too. That gives it a little extra bump for me. Now, Ergohuman Gen 2. Personally, I like the Ergohuman with the leather seat and the mesh back. We actually have the leather back here, but I just love the pivoting kind of real strong support you get in the lumbar region. The upgrade from the original Ergohuman to the new one, much better. Better seat. The arms are even more cush. So a lot of nice things. I'm actually going to be at an A.
I think the best version of this chair is definitely that hybrid. It's like the mesh back leather seat. It gives you kind of the best of both worlds where you get really good support in the seat for those who don't like the mesh. And then the backrest, it's got that added flexibility. But the arm pads on here, these got to be like the closest arm pads to the Aeron. For me, this is easy A plus when I go in that combo.
Yeah, the arm pads are super, super squishy. I just wish they went a little bit more narrow for me, and I do think that the seat is a little bit firm, and it doesn't have any flexibility, so I'd probably be somewhere around a B plus or an A minus maybe, but still a really, really good chair overall. I also like the really deep recline.
All right, that's another A for us then. Consensus pick there. Hbada E3. This is probably going to be Ryan. You kind of have spent a little extra time in the Hbada chairs.
So the E3 series has 3 different chairs. Got the most budget-friendly one here that we're looking at, and I actually like it the best of the 3, just because it doesn't have so much going on like the others. This would be actually my pick for my favorite chair that has a mesh seat for under $300 or $400. I really do like the chair. I think the armrests are pretty good. I like the back support. And the headrest is also a really nice headrest for the price. One thing that I don't love about the chair is that they did go with a weight-activated recline on it, and it kind of puts you in a situation where you either have to sit fully forward or fully back. You can't really get in the in-between mode unless you lock it. So that'd be my one thing that I don't love about the chair, and that's why I'd probably be at around a C plus for this chair.
These love handle huggers right here,
Yeah.
which I have like maxed out right now, just remind you that you have love handles 24/7. Don't love that. I mean, when you get them flat, it's much better for sure, but I guess some people might like that kind of locked in feel. Or if you just have a narrower frame, I could see that kind of being a nice little feature. The only thing is like when you get way back, I kind of have to tuck the seat because I feel the back of it there, and these arms have that gap. I'm gonna go B minus on this one.
Yeah, I'm probably at maybe a C plus. The biggest thing for me is, like Ryan said, I just have to knock it down, not having that tension adjustment. So yeah, that'll fall kind of a high C for us, right? All right, we have the Colamy Atlas. Now, this has been one of our kind of favorite picks for a long time. Going to be, again, in that lower price range, but ignoring that completely, this is just a really comfortable chair. You can see that curve in the backrest. It really helps it kind of push into your lumbar region. So to me, the backrest is really what puts this chair. I'm going to probably a low B. I don't love the arm pads, aren't really cushioned enough for me. The seat is okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be in the same kind of C+, probably B- range, probably closer to a B- just because it does have a really nice backrest. I think the armrests are pretty good, and I do like the headrest. The one thing that I don't love about the chair is the seat is a little bit firm and a little bit small, especially because it has a little bit of a tapered effect on the top, so it almost goes up and has like a platform on the top, and so you lose a bit of surface area there. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I'll be at a B- with this one.
That seat pad is super unique, which we can show on the camera here, how it does have that sort of taper on there. I don't necessarily feel it so much as I sink down in it, but you can really notice it here. This is a firm seat though, and I'm not worried about this thing not holding up because of that reason, but those arm pads, 100%, that's a big drawback for me, and I always complain about just sort of this gap that forms, and this one has a very, very pronounced gap. I'm like B- on this one.
I think we'll definitely on the low end of the B. It's definitely more comfortable than that Hbada E3.
Yeah.
So BTOD Ameap coming up. So this was kind of created because we also have the Lamia chair, which we'll talk about later in the list. This is your Amia frame, have all the adjustments the same as the Amia, but you're going to get the Leap seat. I would give the Amia backrest a A. I'd give the Leap seat an A, and the armrests are definitely an A, some of the best out there. So for me, this is an A tier chair.
I'm actually going to go an A+ on this just because I think that the Amia is going to be an A, but I like the Leap seat a little bit better than the Amia. It's a little bit more flexible. It contours to my body a little bit better, and so I think that putting the Leap seat on the Amia frame is actually an upgrade, so I would push that Amia score on the Ameap up to an A+.
Listen, I don't like the Leap seat quite as much as I like the Amia. It doesn't mean I don't like the Leap seat, and I think when it's paired with this chair, and again, the fact that it's so inexpensive, these arm pads on here, just the armrest four-way from Steelcase is like bar none one of the absolute best in the category. So this is going to be an easy A for me.
So this is our first gaming chair on the list, the Fractal Design Refine chair.
I actually really like this Fractal Refine chair, and I love that they went in the direction of kind of starting with an ergonomic chair and then tweaking some things to make it look like a gaming chair instead of going the reverse, which is going with the race car seat design and then just souping it up with all the colors and fancy logos and stuff. You're going to get all of the functions that you'd expect on an ergonomic chair with this seat slider, seat height adjustment, four-way adjustable arms, and I do think that they made a lot of upgrades compared to what the leading chairs in the category would be. Like the Titan, I think the headrest is way better. I think the arms are way better. The fact that you have a seat slider makes it stand out compared to the Titan. So for me, this chair is the Titan killer. I don't see a reason to buy the Titan anymore now that this exists. They're about the same price. And I'm going to be at a B tier for this one.
The arm pads are so odd on this chair, honestly. It's got like that sock on it almost, right? It kind of takes away from the almost like that soft feel you get with some of the other nicer pads. I think the one thing that really stands out to me on this chair is just how upright this backrest is. This thing is like extremely vertical, which I don't necessarily love. And it's honestly probably the closest thing we have of a true gaming chair that actually doesn't suck. So I say maybe B- on this one.
Yeah, I might be a little lower than that just because I think that seat is a little bit too small for me. I wish I had more seat depth. We'll be at a B-.
I'm changing my pick.
Oh,
I'm
really?
changing my
Okay.
score. Yeah, I'm going to C+.
Oof,
That
okay.
seat pad, that more than I think. I
just brought
spent
it
a lot
down.
of time in
We
this
gotta
chair.
move it down.
A B- would mean it's above average. I think it's not overall.
So here's another one, kind of like the Ergohuman, where we have some different versions. The Haworth Fern chair. My favorite version of the Fern would be our orange chair here with the no headrest, digital knit upholstery. It feels so soft. It's literally like having a little blanket behind your back there. But I do like the lumbar pad, which that's going to be in our Fern gaming chair. This is an extremely comfortable chair. I really like basically everything about it. Recline is really nice. It's not going to quite be an S for me just because there's other chairs that I like even better, but this is still going to be a high A.
Yeah, so for me, this one's going to be a weird one because depending on how you configure the chair, I would score this as low as a B or as high as an S tier. So that orange chair that you see right there, that's going to be my S tier chair. You remove the headrest, remove the lumbar, give it that digital knit, like Robert said, it gives you a little pillow effect. Once you add the headrest, once you add the lumbar, once you add things like that vegan leather seat, it starts to drop down for me. I think the headrest is brutal and the lumbar is way too aggressive for me, so there's not really any in between because you can't adjust it. You either have a ton of lumbar support or just the normal backrest, and then that vegan leather just just really, really heats up my butt. If you go with the version that Greg's sitting in right there, I'm going to be at an S tier for the Fern.
Because it is so wide-ranging. There's some things like that Ryan said that he doesn't like that I definitely like. That lumbar support I actually prefer because it kind of feels a little weak in the lumbar here for me. The armrests are super adjustable, I find, on the Fern, which is really nice. It's so close to being an S-tier chair for me. It's going to be A+. I just think that, you know, the gap between the back and the seat right here, I really notice a lot, and that kind of dings it for me just because, well, I think the seat is comfortable. I'm always feeling that. And so that little change could be just what it takes. So A+.
I remember the first time we went to NeoCon when this was just released. We were so excited to sit in it, and it lived up to the hype of what we thought it was going to be. So
we had someone in the comments recently on the Fern headrest who said that they give that an S tier. I can't imagine how this would be an S tier. Now, everybody's different, but this thing is, the problem with this headrest, and you can see it when you're kind of like looking at the side here, is that it's, if you try to put it in your neck, it's going to hit in a weird part on the bottom of your neck and then in the crown of your head here. And then when you put it up here, it just forces your head forward.
Yeah, that comment was weird too because they said that what more would you want in a headrest? And it's like literally everything. I'd like it to be more adjustable. I'd like it to be soft. I'd like to be in a position where I can use it comfortably. Literally, it does everything I don't want a headrest to do. So
yeah, I mean, it's like a brick.
So amazingly, here comes a headrest we really like from a chair that costs, what, a tenth of the amount? So this is the Ticova coming up next. Now, we don't like the chair as much overall, but it does have a better headrest. And for me, that's like one of the things that boosts it up a little bit.
You know what's the best part?
What's that?
It's removable.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to do that.
No, I definitely don't think it's supposed to be doing this.
But it's just one of the aspects of a low-quality chair right there.
You're not shocking the world with this chair, but it does have that mesh backrest that you can kind of move around a little bit in. You're not going to feel real hard edges. Seat isn't amazing. So, I mean, this is not your long-hour chair. It's probably going to be like a low C for me.
This is one of those chairs where it's impossible not to talk about the price because this is a chair that sells for like $120, $130. And so when you put that into perspective, it's a pretty crazy chair. They're giving you so much chair for $130. It's got 3-way adjustable arms, 2-way adjustable lumbar support, a headrest that's multi-way adjustable, and a huge recline. And while Robert said the seat isn't perfect, the backrest isn't perfect, the arm pads aren't perfect, this is going to be, for me, a C-tier chair that costs $130, which is pretty crazy because it's going to outrank a ton of chairs on this list that cost some $1,000 plus. So I really like the Ticova. I've recommended it for a long time, but expectations in check, C tier.
If you had to sit in this chair for 10 hours, I definitely would never recommend it. I don't really recommend sitting that long. I think we have to be a little bit more clear on this. This is like $130, guys. So you can't beat it for the price, but remember, it's $130. So if we're expecting it to be like the Fern chair, you should just change your expectations because it is what it is. It's an average middle of the road chair. I'm gonna go C- on this. I think that's pretty fair.
The gesture is an interesting one to me because I've kind of always been a little bit down on the gesture just because I don't love the seat for two reasons. One, it's a little bit thin. It's Steelcase's thinnest seat pad. And number two, the chair feels a little bit like I'm sliding forward and coming out of it a little bit. And so I've typically ranked this around a B+, but we recently got the headrest in, and that headrest for me is an absolute game changer. I'm not someone that really loves headrest all that much, but if you're looking for a high-end chair with a headrest that has pretty much all of the adjustments you could ever want, then this is the chair that you want. I mean, all of those high-end chairs are known for not having good headrests. The Embody doesn't have one, Aeron doesn't have one, the Ferns is terrible, Zody has a terrible one. The Gesture has an amazing headrest, and for that reason alone, I'm pushing this up to an A-.
The problems I have are kind of the same as what he said. I don't like how I always feel like I'm slipping off the front of the seat. The other problem, I don't think you mentioned it, is the arms. I always feel a little bit like I'm slipping off the side of the arms. So I don't love that. But other than that, the seat is still comfortable to me, and the backrest, I still really like the backrest. It does have more of a hugging feeling than some of the other chairs, not like that E3 with the love handle huggers, but a little bit more like I'm kind of cradled in the chair. Personally, I like that, but if you don't, stay away. And the headrest, I love the headrest.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it is true. It's like the hardest part with this chair is that seat pad, really, just because I don't get comfortable in it. But these arms are incredible. I mean, did you see how wide-ranging? People are using them to watch their cell phones and doing all these different things. I know that's where the design came from, but these are easily S tier. That headrest is, like Ryan said, this is at top of the line when it comes to being included with a chair. I honestly don't know too many other chairs that are going to be better than this. And the height range, like Robert, you fit in this. Someone who's 6'6" should be able to fit in this pretty easy and actually be able to, really get it either in the back of the head, the crutch of the neck, right there. So I'm going to go B+, but the only thing for me, and I think historically I've been closer to B or B-, and that was because of the seat, but this headrest is a game changer.
I think it's still an A over.
Yeah.
Wait, what'd you give it? I don't think you ever
I don't
gave
think
it
I
a
said,
rating.
but I'd be pretty much a solid A. So we'll put this kind of at the bottom of the A if we average it together.
If you want a downloadable version of this tier list, click the link in the description.
Robert, say yes to the yes.
And that is next, the OMCD yes. So this chair has that thicker pad. So we kind of go back and forth with chairs that have the thick pad. It looks probably thicker than it really feels. Like you don't sink super down far into it, but it does have kind of that more, what's the word I want? Curves, contour, yeah. Which to me feels kind of nice. It doesn't feel like restrictive contour. And it does have that nice mesh backrest that you never feel any hard edges. So for me, this is probably high B range. You guys can talk more headrest, arms, all that.
Even though it's got a thick seat pad, the foam itself has really good bounce back. So a lot of times when we see these really thick seat cushions, for instance on like the CXO chair, it's going to be more of like a memory foam type. So you sink into it and then it just kind of compresses on itself and sits there and it's kind of like a rock. That doesn't happen with the OMS chair, which I actually really like. The backrest is okay. My one gripe about the backrest is the lumbar support on the Yes is really lacking just because there's really none of it down there. You can put the back height adjustment all the way down if you want, but you're still going to be missing a little bit of lumbar support there in my opinion. But I think the headrest is phenomenal and I think the armrests are really good. And so I'm going to be right there with Robert. I'm going to be at a B.
It's got a coat hanger on the back.
It does have a coat hanger.
I mean, how is that not more comfortable?
Well, if you're hot, you can take your jacket
Exactly.
off. Yeah.
This is an A or S tier headrest. I want to say it's been ranked pretty high in the past. It's got a lot of adjustment to it too. I really like that. I think that seat pad, even though I'm not necessarily a big fan of like big, thick, cushy seats, it does have good bounce to it. I think this one is high B for me.
We'll drop that in. Herman Miller Embody. It's probably no secret already that a couple of us here really love this chair. Actually, more than a couple. John, working the camera over here, has this exact chair at home. So for me, I love the flexibility, again, in the seat and the backrest. You're going to have a lot of room on that seat, too, so you can kind of move around. It's not restrictive at all. It's definitely a unique style with that kind of suspended feeling. It's not a big, thick cushion, but it's also not a mesh seat. It's kind of a blend of that. And kind of same with the backrest. It has flexibility. It also has kind of where you can still feel like you're sinking in because you sink into the lumbar, which isn't necessarily like hard and set like some other chairs. So I also like when you add that Atlas headrest. We don't have it on the chair right now, but the arms are probably a little bit of a downside just because there's not a ton of adjustments to get them in that exact spot you like. This is going to be an S.
I think that these arms are actually way more adjustable than you think just because there is a ton of range on them and they're gigantic pads. So like, I mean, when you're looking at this, the only thing I would say is maybe if it went back and forth and just had that extra dimension on there. But when you're reclining in the chair, they stick around with you. So like, I don't have any problem with this on the fit for me. The only thing for me that I don't really love about this chair is that upper back when it just sort of rolls my back forward. I like to bring the backrest all the way up for the proper support for me. That's the only reason I give this an A+, not an S.
As far as the arms go, I just think that you're getting a trade-off, right? Like a lot of people are going to complain about the gesture arms because they move too much and they don't hold the position, but then those same people will complain that the Embody chair doesn't have enough armrest adjustment. And so it's like, well, which one do you want? Do you want super adjustability and they're not going to always be in place? Or do you want a little bit of adjustability and they're going to be rock solid? Because those arms are never going to move on you when you don't want them to move. I think that the pads are incredible. So I don't knock the Embody arms for not being adjustable because I think they made up for it in other areas. I think the seat doesn't get talked about enough on the Embody. I think that it truly provides the feeling that mesh chairs want to provide, which is that suspended feeling without triggering your tailbone. Because a lot of times those mesh chairs, it'll focus that tension into one area, which is going to be your tailbone. You don't get that problem with the Embody. And so I'm at an S tier for the Embody. And if you put that Atlas headrest on there, like he said, I'm at an S+.
First one in S tier. I think we're going to have another first here when we look at the IKEA Markus chair. It's a couple columns we haven't filled out yet, but...
You want to know what it is? The first of actually? The first person to sit in this chair in like the last 2 years. Look at this.
Got a little layer of dust.
There's so much dust on this chair because this is a trash tier. This is garbage tier material right here. Like this chair is such garbage. Now I know it's garbage that will last you a lifetime. So if you want to have a really uncomfortable experience and make sure it lasts for your entire life, grab up this chair. This is an F tier.
I do agree that it's really, really close to that garbage tier. It doesn't have a lot of redeeming characteristics. I think the back support overall is really terrible. The armrests are about as bad as you can get. There's zero adjustment. They're just straight bent metal with a little bit of fabric over the top of them. The one redeeming factor for me is going to be that recline, because I have not found a chair with a more comfortable recline for under $200, and that's the only reason that I'm going to give it a D minus minus. But this is as close to F tier as you can get. So
triple minus is as good of an F as I've ever heard one.
Well, I'll put it in F. And
right.
Here's why. All the stuff you guys said, but one thing we didn't mention yet is that lumbar, which is basically this hard piece that's just stuck in your back that you can't get rid of. Must have some smells too, which we won't account for.
It's a genuine
comfort,
leather on this bad boy? It's got the smell of leather. I tell you what, it doesn't feel very nice, but
maybe.
So this is going to be F tier. Sorry, Ryan, your D
No, it's
minus
fine.
isn't your D minus minus.
minus.
It's understandable.
All right, so if you have watched some of our old tier lists, you've seen us rank the X Chair X2. Now we have the X3. This gives you the actual padded seat instead of that mesh seat that I think was called the X2 Sport or K2 Sport. I've always kind of been okay with the backrest on this chair. It has that flexible support, kind of like an Ergohuman, where it pushes in as you move around in the chair. For me, this is going to be tough. I'm probably going to go like a low B on this chair.
I remember when I gave my first impressions on this chair, I gushed and glowed about this chair because it is such a massive upgrade to that terrible the K2 Sport. That chair is brutal. That is like a $700-800 chair that is straight F tier because it is so uncomfortable. They made a lot of improvements on that chair with the model that Greg's in now, and so I was really, really high on this chair to the point where I thought maybe it could be A tier. After sitting in it for a while longer, I've come back down to reality a little bit. The seat is really firm, and I don't love the armrests. The added kind of features that you get if you upgrade with the massage or cooling or whatever they've got, I like the cooling aspect because it keeps you from getting back sweat or whatever, but I'm still going to be at like a B minus or a B on this chair. I can't get it to A tier.
You know, the massage thing is just too gimmicky for me.
Yeah, but the
honestly.
cooling is nice.
I would tend to agree. I mean, I think the armrests on this chair are arguably some of the worst just because they just feel so not solid. I'm going to go B minus on this one. I struggle to get it into the B. I think it is above average just because it does have good support. The seat is good enough for me to be able to sit in, but again, it could be on the firm side for some folks. Those arms, if they were better, I could get it higher up in B, but I'm going to go B minus.
All right, Haworth Soji chair. So another one of these.
How do you turn off the...
We can't turn off the massager.
I pushed the button again, I would assume.
There, lights off.
Third button. I pushed it 3 times. All right.
All right, so Haworth Soji, this is kind of one of the Haworth's more mid-tier chairs. This is a chair that kind of fits a wide group of people. It looks like a smaller chair to me, but for me at 6'2", the backrest is plenty tall for me. I have plenty of room to move around without hitting any hard frame. I sink into it nicely. The seat is a bit on the firm side, and it's not a huge seat, but I still find it to be, decently comfortable. It's gonna be kind of a mid B. Like I'd put it right above that Atlas chair.
Yeah, I think that Haworth did a phenomenal job with this chair. This is their $500 to $600 chair, so they're trying to hit as many people as possible with this chair, and I think they did a great job. Like Robert said, it's going to fit most people because it has a ton of adjustability, so it's a really, really safe pick. It's why we've been recommending it for years, and it's why I still recommend it as one of my go-to picks for that $500 to $700 range. So I'm going to be I'll give it a B.
This reminds me of a Vera chair, but a harder version all around. So Vera hasn't come up on the list yet, but it's coming up right away after this one. And I would say this one is an easy a B. Like it's just like Ryan said, pretty much spot on. And I can sit in the firm seat, but some people probably won't like it. But it is literally firm all the way around.
Yeah, we'll drop her in the middle of the B there. Well, since you brought it up, yeah, we can pull out that Vera. For me, the thing that I like about the Vera is the curve in the backrest again. So I like to have the shape built into the frame of the seat, the backrest, so that it really pushes into your lumbar region. You can see there's no adjustable support. Like the Soji has some adjustment to it, but even that one kind of relies on the shape of it. Vera doesn't even need that. It has just the right tension on the mesh to keep it really strong so that you can sink in. Whatever it is, I can't quite get comfortable in the arms just because I wish they'd go a little lower, but this is still going to be a really solid B chair.
This is one of those where a few aspects of it are really, really high scoring for me. So like Robert said, the backrest, I think the backrest is phenomenal. Like A+, potentially S tier backrest comfort for all the reasons that he said. And I actually love the seat. I think that people sleep on the Vera seat because it does have more of a ergonomic, like firmer feel, but it's got more cushion. So it's softer than most ergonomic chair seats, if that makes sense. The biggest downside for me is exactly what Robert said. The arms don't go low enough for me, and I don't love the pads because they're a little bit firm and they're a little bit slippery, and sometimes my elbows slide off the sides. If we're going straight comfort, I'd probably be A-, I'd probably say, because the seat and back are so comfortable. So
Yeah, the thing is with these arm pads, they are a bit firm. But to be completely frank on the rest of the chair, like you said, that seat pad is glorious. This backrest is probably my favorite backrest from a mesh chair. It just hits perfect, and I know that hits for a wide variety of people, which is kind of crazy. This chair for me is easily an A, and if I could bring in the cost of it to just find that value, it would be even higher. But yeah, I'd knock it a little bit just for the arms and the arms alone.
All right, so moving into a little different style chair here, the Neutral Posture 8000. It has just really good thick pads all around. Again, similar to the Yes that we talked about earlier. They're not thick in the sense that you're sinking down and not feeling any support, like you're not going to bottom out in this chair. Headrest, just incredible headrest. Arms have a lot of adjustments to them. I'm actually going to go A, and the reason is I don't love the recline mechanism.
yeah, this chair for me is kind of like that Vera in terms of like how it like ranks how I look at it, just because the headrest on this chair is better than any headrest you're ever going to find ever. It's very well padded, super soft, super comfortable, no hard edges. It's really big, and it has an incredible amount of adjustments, which means that you can use it any way that you want. You can use it fully in line with the backrest. You can put it ahead of the backrest. You can get it completely out of the way so that you never feel it. And then I think the arms are also phenomenal. Like, they're probably the most adjustable arms that we're going to show today. The backrest is where I don't love the chair, just because it has more of a concave design, and so it hugs you and kind of holds you in place. So that's the only reason that I would bring it down, but unfortunately that's going to bring it all the way down to a B+ for me.
Yeah, I mean, this thing has so many adjustments to it. It took me like the last 3 minutes just to remember how to use this chair.
It's good.
I'm gonna be completely honest. There's gonna be a ton of footage of me just trying to figure out these armrests because they spin around completely.
Everything.
Like, these are crazy arms, but they're super soft. And because they're so widely adjustable, I think anybody can get them comfortable. I also like the fact that they lock out, because I know a lot of people don't like when stuff moves around. So if you're focused heavily on your arms and a headrest, like, these are S tier both ways. But yeah, the thing is it doesn't have a deep recline. It's an independent back angle adjustment. So you're going to need to really want to fine tune your chair. But for me personally, this is an easy B. Not cheap though. So
Yeah, we'll kind of put that up at the top of the Bs.
Herman Miller Sayl. I know we're not supposed to factor in price, but it's hard for me not to factor in price because I just have to compare this to the Soji, and I just think that it's tough to justify the price. But pure comfort, I think it's okay. I like the armrests. I think the pads are good. They're nice and soft. You get a bunch of adjustment. I think the backrest is pretty good too if it fits you.
does it look like a bridge?
Yeah, Golden Gate bridge.
There it is.
Golden Gate suspension bridge. That's what it was designed after. It's got that rubber-like material. It's soft. It's flexible. It's pretty good. But the top of that backrest is going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people because it's so short. I think the recline's nice. It could be a little bit deeper, and the seat is going to be pretty good, but it's going to be on the firm side. Overall, I'm going to be right at a B tier, right there next to the Soji.
So like Brian said, the backrest is kind of a problem at the top. For me, it's just not tall enough. I've said this before. I wish they made like a ABC sizing, because just like they do with the Aeron, if I could have a size C Sayl, I would probably love it, but I just don't feel like I fit in it properly. The seat's on the smaller side too. The arms, they look weaker than they really are. The pads are actually pretty nice, and they do have some adjustment, but I'm probably gonna go high C on this.
Yeah, I mean, the backrest is just a deal killer for us folks who are tall, Robert. I know you're 6'2" or 6'3", depending on the
Depends
day,
on
and
the
me,
day,
I'm
yeah.
6 foot. Sometimes 6'1" even. And this one it hits in the wrong spot on the back. It's more of like a mid-back chair for taller people. I never got the feeling that this was like just a super high quality chair from Herman Miller, even though it hits at like $1,000 right now. For me, this is going to be just okay. It's an average chair, which is unfortunate, but because of that back thing, I got to go C tier.
The BTOD Akir. Now this one has the leather seat. For me, this is definitely the preferred version. This is more comfortable to me than the padded. It's a mesh covered seat. The thing with this one is you don't sink so far down into it. With that other padded seat, I find that I go too deep down. It gets warm and you kind of limits your moving around a little bit. And for me, at my size, I like that big backrest. I can kind of still move around in the chair. I never feel any hard edges. I can't go too high though, because arms aren't necessarily necessarily my favorite. It's still going to be a B for me.
Yeah, just touching on that seat again, Robert kind of was beating around the bush a little bit. The fabric padded seat, it just tends to bottom out a little bit quicker than you typically like it to do. Maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, it'll start to bottom out. Whereas the leather seat does not bottom out for me at all. That leather upholstery helps to hold that cushion in place a little bit more. I'm not sure why that is, but it's just way more comfortable for me. So historically, this is a chair that I've typically ranked C tier, mainly because it's just a little bit too big for me. And I would also like if the armrest got a little bit more narrow, but I do think that the backrest is comfortable in terms of the material, and I think the headrest is good. Upgrading that seat, I'm going to kick this up to a B- instead of that C tier.
Yeah, I think you guys are pretty much spot on with that. I think the 3D mesh is definitely going to feel a lot softer, which I don't necessarily love. And overall, it's a pretty big chair, which I'm kind of on the edge about, fitting width-wise and height-wise. The seat, though, really does boost this a little bit for me because that leather seat does hold that cushion better. So I'm going to go B tier. I think I've historically been high C's on it in the past. So
yeah, I think we can even show a shot of Travis from BTOD sitting in the chair. He's in that big and tall category and found it to be pretty comfortable, just maybe a little tight on the armrest width there. So we'll let Greg take it away on this one, his Steelcase Amia chair.
So yeah, I think the Steelcase Amia for me, this is going to be probably one of my top picks here. I mean, there is nothing that I don't love about this chair. I mean, it's got a great seat pad. It's my preferred seat pad in the Steelcase lineup. There's just something about the way they've designed this pad that does a better job supporting me for longer periods of time. It's got the nice 4-way arm set that, again, is just top tier for my opinion. And then that backrest, while it doesn't necessarily have quite as pronounced of a lumbar, it does still have a significant amount with that adjustable 3D backrest. So for me, with the live back technology and all those things together, it's the easy S tier.
Yeah, for me, this is just an easy A tier. Just when I look at all of the components of the chair that we look at for comfort, seat, easy A, backrest, easy A, probably more towards an A-. I do wish it was a little bit more flexible, kind of like the Leap, but still an A tier for comfort. Armrest, A or S tier. Recline, not my favorite recline. That would probably be the only thing where I'd be at like a B+, maybe A-, but still, overall, I love everything about the chair. This is an easy A tier chair for me.
I really like that seat. The problems are maybe that I do wish that backrest was a little bit taller, and the recline, like Ryan said, it's not quite my favorite. I prefer those really smooth, real deep reclines like the Embody has, which is going to keep it at an A. It's still going to be a really solid A here for us, probably right between the Leap and the Ameap.
I don't care what you guys say, honestly, because this is an S tier chair. So
yeah,
look at this bad boy in the forward tilt right here. Woo! Woo! Is this one up yet? Is this
Not
up
yet.
yet? This looks like a hot off the streets Aeron Classic.
I think that literally is one that was hot off the streets. So before we get there, we have the Branch Ergonomic Pro. So this is another chair. We've had a couple of these where manufacturers have upgraded or changed their chair to a new version. And with the Ergonomic Pro here, this one is a definite improvement. So the backrest is much better on this. They've kind of mastered the tightness of the mesh. The seat's a little bit thicker, which again, thick doesn't always necessarily mean good, but I do find that I'm less likely to kind of bottom out through that. This is probably going to be like a high C chair. When I look at kind of where we have everything else ranked, that's probably about where I would kind of fit it between everything else.
Yeah, this is a tough one because it's kind of like the X chair series for me, where I just think that this is such a massive improvement to their standard ergonomic chair that I just wanted to gush about it as soon as I sat in it. But once you get through that first initial sit test, you start to kind of see some chinks in the armor. One, I don't love the armrests. They're really firm. Two, what Greg just pointed out and did, it creates a big gap. When you do the recline, your arms aren't going to be supported through the recline because you got that gap in between the arms and the backrest. I do think they improved upon the seat. Like he said, the backrest is way more comfortable because the mesh actually holds tightness, and I do think that it has a pretty good lumbar support. We'll give it a B-, but we'll see how that checks out maybe in a few months when we do our next tier list.
I'm gonna be honest. I can't get above C- on this chair. It is super thick and padded up in the front. There's nothing more true about that. But when you get towards the back here, it is very thin and you can bottom out. I can feel it bottoming out on screws. But the arm pads are rock hard. The back, maybe better support than the ergonomic chair. But this one is a C-. It could even be as low as a D+.
Yeah, I'll drop this. I think averaged out, we'll put that in the middle of C tier. Okay, we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum a bit again with the Haworth Zody. I do really like that backrest. So it's nice and wide. Again, you can move around freely. It has just the right amount of kind of suspended support. Lumbar is good. Arms are good, seat is good. Again, nothing like amazing that wows me, so I can't go super high, but this is still going to be an A for me.
Yeah, I think the Zody for me is one of the most underrated chairs on the market. I really love almost everything about the Zody. It has one of my favorite backrests out of any chair. I think it's got great flexibility. I do like the lumbar a lot. I think that the multi-way adjustment of being able to adjust the depth more on one side than the other is pretty unique. I think the seat's also really comfortable, and I really like the armrest. The one major drawback to the Zody is Haworth's decision to go with their really weird mechanism on this chair, where you've got like a front tilted mode, a standard mode, and then like an increased mode. The problem is that there's no just standard mode. Like if you sit in the Fern, it just feels like an ergonomic chair, like a normal synchro tilt, really, really comfortable. Whereas the Zody always puts you in a position where you either feel like you're a little too reclined or you're a little too far forward. And so you have to pick one or the other and then kind of make it cater towards your needs. If you can't find that in-between range, it can be a tough chair to use. So for me, I'm at an A, potentially an A+ with this chair, but I can see why some people might not love it.
The armrests are pretty much just right on par with like the Fern chair, and also the fact that that seat is pretty much identical to the Fern chair. It just has a lot of similarities in that way. The only thing wrong with it is that weird sort of not really fully upright position, but it does have that perch mode when you get, I mean, I just did it on camera. I tried it. I've used it with the LX. I didn't find it to be something that I would do on a regular basis, so I don't know if it's necessarily like needed, but this is a really solid chair. I would go at A tier on this. I think I've done A in the past. It would make sense.
All right, we have the BTOD Lamia chair. So now this is your leap frame, but we put in a Mia seat. So for me, this is taking the two best parts of a Steelcase chair, the Amia seat, which I love, and the Leap's backrest, which has all that flexibility, which I really like. To me, you put those combination of features together, again, you have those amazing arms. This is an S tier chair.
For me, the Leap is going to be S tier. And the Amia is going to be A tier. The Ameap is A+, because I think that the Amia with the Leap seat is going to be an upgrade. So unfortunately, I have to downgrade my Leap score when it goes to the Lamia down to an A+, because while I think that the Amia seat is really, really comfortable, I don't think it's quite as comfortable as the Leap seat for me. So I just got to knock it down just a little bit. So we're going to be at an A+ for the old Lamia.
Haters are going to hate, and that's just what happens when you're out there hating all the time. You know what I'm saying? The Lamia is the chair for sure, and I can't tell you much other than that this is an S tier chair through and through. You get the functionality of the Leap chair with the comfort of that Amia seat paired with that flexible backrest, which I know in the comments you've been recently skewered because they're saying, why would you ever do the Russian twist? But you do it all day during work.
Whoever stretches in their chair like that, no one would ever move around like that, as I'm literally moving around like that as I read the comment. It's kind of funny.
So, but it is funny because obviously that's not how you're using the chair all the time. But this chair is so flexible throughout. The one thing I'll say, the one drawback is that the seat pan isn't quite as flexible, but otherwise this thing hits all the marks. This isn't only S tier, this is God tier, guys. This is that high up there.
Stapels Hyken next.
Wow. Yeah, let me grab that unit. That's a really hot one there.
Luckily for you guys, we won't spend a lot of time on this. I think someone shared in the comments that this is like $120 now. Maybe it was just on sale. I'm not sure. If it's $120, maybe you can justify that this thing is worth it. To me, you could not pay me to sit in this chair. You'd have to pay me hundreds of dollars an hour to sit in this chair. I think it is excruciatingly uncomfortable. It doesn't have any redeeming characteristics for me. So for me, it's easy F tier.
I think the real problem is that we've found chairs that are not that much more expensive than this, like the Ticova or even the Colamy. It's going to be a little more, but that are way more comfortable. And that's what really pushes this thing down. And I would never want to sit in this. So this is going to be an F tier.
Well, you can't use this chair with the headrest, I assume, because like for me right now, it's hitting in the top of my shoulders.
It hits in the top.
And that's when it's like kind of pivoted away, but when you go back in the chair, it wants to push it back into your neck. Yeah, this is an easy F tier chair for me. I mean, there's literally no redeeming qualities about this except for maybe the warranty and the fact that you can return it because you're going to want to. So,
all right, another all-mesh chair, the Ergohuman Extreme.
Other end of the spectrum for an all-mesh chair.
These couldn't be any different chairs. But this is the problem when people just look at stuff online and just say, well, what's the difference? They're two mesh chairs. This is a slightly downgraded version of the Ergohuman V2 for sure. I think there's really, for me personally, the only reason that I can't get this quite up as high as an Ergohuman is just the fact that I like a lot of pronounced lumbar, and because this one's kind of tied into the back, it isn't as pronounced for me. But as far as the seat's concerned, it's got that new design sort of seat where it doesn't have the uncomfortable front of the seat pan, and it's got these game changer arm pads on here. So this one's going to be an easy A tier for me, probably A-.
That mesh seat I actually like. Maybe I have to give it some more time, but I do think it's a really nice mesh seat, and I really like the arms. I think the arms are actually better than the V2, just because they fit me a little bit better for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it just feels like the chair fits me a little bit better. I actually really like the lumbar support because it's not quite as aggressive as that V2, and I think the headrest is really good, but just be prepared for it to be a little bit more on the aggressive side because it does pitch forward a little bit more, but it does allow you to use it when you're actually working and tasking. So yeah, I'm gonna be at an A- with this chair, which I'm as shocked as anyone, to be honest.
It's got ridiculously deep recline,
It's
just
super deep.
just like the Ergohuman does, where like if you guys are looking for that chair for like not just working, but like hanging out, watching content, like this thing is deep.
This can be your gaming chair.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I did a whole video review on this, so if you want my take, you can go watch the video.
He's not going to tell you here. Just go watch the video.
But I will give it the same ranking, and I do even kind of compare. It's like a gaming chair in a way because it has that great recline. So this is going to be, we'll put it kind of at the bottom of the A tier. So the Hon Ignition, not necessarily the biggest comfort. To me, this is like kind of the epitome of just like a super average chair. And I mean that not necessarily in like a really bad way. It's just there's nothing that wows me as like, oh, I would pick this chair because it's really comfortable in this area. I'll probably be a low C for me because of that.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar. The only one thing that I do think that this chair kind of separates itself from other chairs in the similar price range is that it does have a very flexible backrest. I really do like the flexibility in that backrest because for a similarly priced chair, when we look at like a Soji or a Vera, you're not going to get that flexibility. Everything else is just okay. The lumbar's okay. The arms are maybe a little less than okay, and the seat is maybe a slightly less than average. So I'm going to be right at a C tier for this one.
The problem is that the arm pads are like rock hard, right? They're rock hard. They don't really do anything except for move up and down. And it's got that diaper butt chair seat action, which means it like sounds like a diaper when you're moving around in it. But it does have good thickness. So if you're okay with the diaper sound, which I know a lot of people who watch these videos are like not big into sounds, that might be a deal breaker. This is just an average chair all around for me. Even with the Russian twist, I'm gonna go C tier.
All right, we teased it, that Aeron Classic over there. So this is kind of, it's almost like perfect that this Classic we have has some issues because
they all have issues, people.
This is kind of the case with the Aeron Classic. I mean, if you find a Classic, which I know a lot of people are finding these chairs, they want to sit in them, they hear the name
Do you
Aeron.
know where this was found?
I believe Francis found it on the side of the road, right?
Francis found this in the exact place that all Aeron should be, just on the side of the road. This is terrible right here.
Okay, so it's mostly true. But what I would argue is that if you do get really lucky and you find one in awesome condition, it's not a terrible chair. It still does have a pretty nice feeling recline. The arm pads are nice. I do like the mesh. It can be a little firm. But again, if you find like a mint condition one of these, I would still check it out and see if it's comfortable.
The reason that we call it the Classic is because Herman Miller revamped the Aeron in 2016. The Classic, in my opinion, is a completely different chair. The Remastered, they improved on a ton of things. I think that the Classic is an F tier. When we look at the seat comfort, it's brutal. I cannot sit in this chair. The front lip on the seat pad is absolutely terrible. One of the least comfortable mesh chairs I've ever sat in. I do not like the arms, especially if you get the old version, you get like the hard sock version where it's just really, really firm. And I think that the backrest with that lumbar pad that just moves up and down, the really hard, I think it's F tier.
You're going to get a lot of money for parts on this one, Francis, because it doesn't really work at all. And here's the thing. Someone took the cables off of it for the forward seat tilt, and now it's always in forward seat tilt.
Parted out.
This, in its time, was the best mesh chair ever made, but its time has since
in 1994.
passed. Exactly. So there's so many chairs that are better than this one. Like Ryan said, if you want to go with the Remastered, I could see it ranking. But this is an F tier all day.
Tough one to rank because I'm still going to give it a C,
What a cheater.
I think. I'm working the mouse, so I'm putting it in D.
Two Fs and a C makes a D, huh?
D minus. That's fair.
Okay.
We don't have anything in D.
We don't have anything
so
in D tier, so we got to have
something.
something there. It's going to be the Aeron Classic.
Exactly.
Next up, we got the Office Master Truly chair.
Ooh, so this has that poly backrest design. We haven't actually had a ton of those in our list so far, but for me, I actually really like that style. It looks like it'd be really firm and hard, and if you've never sat in a polyback chair, you might think, well, why would I want a hard plastic chair? But it does have flexibility. It doesn't just feel rigid. You can move around a bit in the chair. The seat is on kind of the firmer side, even though, again, it looks like one of these thicker padded seats. Armrest, nice thick pads. They have a good amount of adjustability. Sometimes too much adjustability means they have a little bit of play, move around a little bit. This is going to be a mid B tier chair for me.
The Truly is one of those interesting chairs because it does have some things that I really like. I think the back height adjustment on it is a really unique feature that kind of really allows you to get the curve of that backrest right into that lumbar area. And it does have a pretty high backrest, so it's going to work for most people, even if you're taller. I think that the arms are really good quality arms. I like that they're massive, a ton of surface area. As you can see Greg kind of moving them around, they're not the easiest armrest to adjust just because the way that they adjust, you kind of got to wiggle them to get them to the exact spot, but they have a massive adjustment range. You can put them almost anywhere that you want, which is really cool. The one thing that I don't love is the seat. It's a little bit firm and it kind of has a little bit of a weird contour. If you put the jacket on it to give that backrest a little softness, I'd be an A-. If you don't have the jacket, I'd be at a B+.
Yeah, the jacket is a big game changer, I think, for it too, because I think that makes it a lot more comfortable in the back. It's just the polyback, the difference between this polyback and like the ones that, like for instance, the Sayl chair, is it's more slick. It's just, you kind of slip around it a little bit more, and so that jacket kind of adds a little softness and then eliminates that slipperiness. But yeah, the adjustable lumbar too on this thing, where you can kind of crank and it sort of forms that backrest.
Oh yeah,
is super unique on this.
Yeah.
And so you can really ramp up that lumbar if you like a lot. It's very pronounced, and then you can kind of fine tune it. I guess say it's like a B+. What did you guys have?
I gave it A- with the jacket.
Yeah, I could see that with the jacket. Right now, as it is, I'd say B+. So with the jacket, probably A-, right around there.
Okay, the Sihoo M18. This is a chair that, I guess, I don't know if controversy is the right word, but we hear a little bit about this and it's being suggested as this is a chair that could beat some of our other, was that supposed to happen? But this chair does not really beat any of our picks. There's a reason why we never picked this even in our budget chair list, because it's just hard all over the place, especially that seat is really firm. I'm at like a D-, maybe F. I don't know.
See, for me, this is one of the only chairs on the market that I'd maybe consider sitting in the Hyken over this chair. So for me, it's very easily an F-tier chair. The seat is rock hard. Like the only chair that I've sat in that I can think of off the top of my head that has a harder seat is the one that's sitting right across from it, that Secret Lab Titan. And I cannot stand the armrests because they have this contour in them. So you cannot use them any other way than just straight forward without feeling like your arms are on a lip. And then the backrest, the way that they pulled the mesh, leaving it inside the frame, means that you can always feel the plastic frame on your shoulders. They didn't pull the mesh over the outside of it like they did on, for instance, the Ticova to make it more flexible and seamless with the backrest. Instead, you just feel that lip of the plastic frame everywhere. So for me, this is easy F tier. I would rather sit in a beanbag. I would rather stand at my desk than use this chair.
I think if you like sitting on a park bench, this could be a really good pick because the seat is rock solid. This lumbar support doesn't feel like there's any pad. It's like it jabs so hard into your back. I like aggressive lumbar, but that's not it. It feels like you're hitting something that's immovable when you get back into it. And the contour of the arms, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, and I think you're probably going to hate it. So this is an F-tier chair all day.
The Humanscale Freedom chair is next up. So this is a chair I've spent a ton of time in. It has a weight-sensitive recline. So it activates because how heavy you are and how much you lean back in the chair. Personally, I find I can get in a really comfortable position because of that, and that headrest fits just in kind of the right spot of my neck. The problem is it's not going to work for everyone, but I do like the seat. This has a kind of that gel padding to it, and the arms, not a lot of adjustments, but I find I can get them in the right spot. I'll put it as a high B.
The problem is for me is that if I look at every individual component and score it individually on comfort, this would score very, very highly. I think that the seat is really, really great. I also think the backrest is really comfortable. It has good lumbar support, independent height adjustment, really good flexibility. You got that wiggle there. And I think that the headrest, aside from the way that it functions, just the way that it feels, the curvature, the padding is very, very comfortable. And I think the arm pads are just good enough. The problem is that when you put them all together in the motion that they've created, it completely ruins the chair for me. Humanscale's mentality of we're going to go with a weight sensitive mechanism so that you don't have to adjust anything on the chair while also giving you seat height, seat depth, arm height, arm width, back height adjustment, headrest adjustment just makes no sense to me. You have 7 other adjustments on the chair, but you won't give us a tension adjustment, which is the #1 complaint about the chair. So truthfully, I should be giving this something like a DD+ because I simply cannot use the chair. But because of the chair individually, components are so comfortable, I'm going to give it a C tier. You got anything else to add, Greg?
I mean, you just pretty much smashed the chair. So No, I've sat a lot in this chair. I really gave it a run. Like, honestly, 6 months I put in this chair, and the things that I noticed is that the most comfortable position is sort of like a quasi-recline. It's not full recline, and then you have to use an articulating keyboard tray. That's where that headrest feels like it's good support. But the short arms are a little bit awkward, and the fact that they have to move in unison, I don't necessarily love. Man, it's a tough one. I got to go B- on this. I think that's pretty fair.
All right, we'll put this as a low B then. All right, now we get to move to the remastered Aeron. Excited to bring this one out.
Yeah,
at
the
least
way that you got excited, I knew instantly it was the Aeron. He like adjusted up in his chair. He's like, here we go. Finally, we got the Aeron.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of the Aeron fanboy for years, and kind of like what Ryan was saying, when you break it down into its individual components, I probably wouldn't be super high on it. But for me, it's kind of the opposite. When you put them all together, I actually give this an S tier. A lot of that is that recline, which I've mentioned a couple times in this video. Even though parts of it can be a little bit firm, I'm able to kind of look past that and just absolutely love sitting in this chair. For me, it would be the size C. This is a B we're showing, until Herman Miller sends me a size C. So get in the right size and you're going to be really comfortable. Arm pads are amazing. So S tier for me.
Yeah, I can't quite get it to S tier, but I'm definitely not going to be F tier where we were with the Classic. I think that the Remastered is a massive improvement to the Classic simply because of the seat redesign. Removing the pad, pitching the angle, giving you that 4 flex zones in that seat, I think it's a very, very big improvement. I also think that they improved the arms a ton. In my opinion, the Aeron has the most comfortable arm pads out of any chair I've ever used, and I do like the backrest, especially with that Posture Fit SL support. So while it doesn't have the flexibility that I typically look for, and I don't necessarily love the mesh seat because it does kind of have that bucket seat design, I'm still going to be at a B+ for this one.
Something interesting about this one that I'm noticing right now for the first time, this is the gaming version, which it should not be any different, but the arm pads on this one are more firm.
I think that was a silent change.
Okay.
I think that their arm pads were getting a lot of warranty claims would be my guess because they were so soft. That's the only thing that I could think of because I noticed the same thing, but they're still super comfortable.
I'm going to bump this up just a little bit because, again, I think it's so much better than the Classic. It just sits a little too firm in the seat for me. I don't necessarily love the way that this is like sort of bucket designed. That's just not for me personally. And the back on this B is a little bit too short. And to be honest, like I don't quite fit into a C if you look at the chart. I'm not quite big enough. For that reason, I'm going B.
All right, well, we're going to kind of drop at the end of the A then. We had kind of 2 B+ and an S, so I think that seems fair. Okay, Haworth Breck chair. Ryan, you kind of took the lead on this with the review. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, this is
my
gonna be-
review.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, maybe we start that over.
Okay.
All right, the Haworth Breck chair. So, Greg, you did the review for this. Maybe you can kick it off.
That's right. One of the drawbacks to this chair is just the size and the fit for me, which is odd because if you look at the pictures on Haworth's site, they depict a male my size, but that is not who this chair is for. And one of the biggest reasons why that is because it's just overall, this is just a smaller chair. Oddly enough, though, the seat pad, while it's not thick, it's actually quite comfortable. The arm pads, it reminds me of a Steelcase Series 1 chair. This is just sort of an afterthought. They are not comfortable. I'm just going to go literally middle of the road. I'm going to go C tier on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in next. When I look at it, I almost want to write it off because I just know I'm not going to fit properly in it. But then when I did sit down in it, it felt more comfortable than I expected. But I couldn't even really give it that long test because it's just I don't feel like I fit properly. So I'll give it kind of that low C. If you fit in it, I could see this being really comfortable.
So I'm 5'9", and I feel like I'm too big for the chair. I don't really know who they necessarily made this chair for because like he commented on their website, there's a lot of people that look like me and him on that website sitting in this chair, and we just don't fit in the chair. And the other thing that kind of caught me off guard is that backrest. While it's a poly material and you would expect it to be flexible like most of those backrests are, it's not. Like the top ridge of the backrest is really firm. Like there's no flexibility at all. So for me, I really like this chair simply because I think it's way better than the Series 1, which is the chair that they were designing it to go against. So if you're comparing it only to the Series 1 from Steelcase, then yeah, it's like A tier. But if you're comparing it to every other tier in the category, I'm going to be somewhere around like a C or a C-.
All right, you've probably seen my shirt, Gaming Chairs Suck. Let's bring out the Secret Lab Titan. So when we talk about our gaming chairs suck, if you've seen some of Ryan's gaming chair videos, we're really talking about those racing style, the real junk gamers. Secretlab Titan is definitely a step up from that in a lot of ways, although it does still have that pretty firm seat, and it does have some bolsters, which are those kind of limiting things on the sides. Fortunately, Secretlab did go a little softer on the seat bolsters, so they are not completely limiting you like other gaming chairs. But man, I still got to say, gaming chairs kind of suck, and I don't love this one, which you can buy these sweatshirts, by the way. Link in the description.
Nice. The problem is that you just get the inherent flaws with the race car style design. You don't have to make it this way. Like, you don't have to have the pronounced side bolsters to be a gaming chair, but for whatever reason, we insist on putting these massive side bolsters on the seat and on the back and making it so that you're constricted and you can't move and you are protected as if you're racing down the Autobahn when you're just sitting in your office. So I cannot stand the gaming chair, and for me specifically, the Titan, you can see Greg pounding on it. This is the hardest seat right next to the Sihoo that I've ever used. And yeah, it has the built-in lumbar support, which is a huge step up from like the GT Racer for $100, but it still has the completely flat backrest design aside from that. So your upper back is still flat and the pillow is comfortable, yes, to the touch, yeah, but it's not gonna provide very much support. So I gotta be somewhere around a D on this chair.
I'll tell you what, I gave it remember we had the Road to Redemption on this chair, and I felt like because I had given some other chairs that were just terrible F tiers, and this one you can use, I upgraded this to a solid D. Take that for what it is.
Okay, the Sihoo Dora S3000. It took me a long time to sit in this and really get used to it, because at first you're just kind of like trying to figure out like, what is this movement in the backrest? Where should I put the upper backrest? Has some adjustability, and trying to get used to the arms too that have all these ridges on them. It just fell short in a lot of areas. Probably the biggest problem, those arms. If you just put a little bit too much weight on the back portion of the arm, they pop right up. Just makes it really uncomfortable because you're always feeling like you have to put your arms in the right spot. Looking at what we have here, I'm probably going to go C-.
This chair's tagline should be, what is the point of this? Because there's so much stuff on the chair that I literally went like, what is the point of this? So the first one would be the lower back support that they went with. It's like two pieces that are like split. You would think that it would provide better support because it's going to be more individualized, but the problem is that there's no lumbar support. Your lumbar just sinks through the middle this way, and so it almost just makes you hunched down like this. So you're not propped up like this, you're just hunched down like this in between like the flap things. And then those armrests are completely garbage. The fact that they have a huge lip on the back that literally runs into my elbow every time that I'm using the chair, and you cannot prevent them from just going like this all the time. It's like someone put the chair together and then just started selling it without ever using it before. For me, I have a hard time getting this out of F tier because I simply cannot use this. I can't put it in F tier because it's not as bad as the other F tier chairs, but I'm going to be in a D tier.
This is good. Full love handle support, and it misses my lumbar region. So
yeah, 100%.
It's incredibly awkward for me. And then also, yeah, this tipping of the arm pads is just, it's an impossible thing. I've tried to sit at this chair for a week and it's impossible. It's a D tier because I can technically sit in it. It's not to the point, the arms are incredibly annoying, but I can sit in it, so it's not an F tier, but yeah.
All right, ready to roll out the beast. We've been hiding in the corner there.
Oh, are we rounding out the list?
Our last chair, the Nightwatch Commander. So this is kind of Greg's baby. He's done a lot of work to design this in a special way, how we want it to be, so we'll let him take it away here.
This is the chair that everybody wanted because, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have been asking for something that's solid, that lasts, and it's comfortable for taller individuals, and that's pretty much what this is all about. Me at 6 foot, it fits me well. Again, I've talked about this before. Ryan's kind of on the edge, but I love it because one of the things we really focused on was the seat. It's got a nice thick seat pad, but it's not super squish, right? Like, you're gonna sit in it, it's gonna give you great support. It's not gonna bottom out over time, which is S tier for me in the seat itself. Back is kind of the same. We didn't have to go quite as firm on the backrest because it's just naturally doesn't have as much weight into it. So these two parts and that headrest, I think that's S tier on the chair all day. Now, the only thing is, because of what it is, it needs to be a beast, a beefcake. It's rated for 24 hours. And so the way that we designed the arms and the arm pads, they need to hold up to that type of an abuse. And so that's kind of one of the drawbacks, and the fit, I would say. So me personally, this chair is an A+, pretty consistently there for me. If the arms were a little bit softer and I could get them tucked in maybe a little bit more, then I'd probably say S tier. But of course, I mean, it is our chair, I should say S tier. I'll just go A. We'll go A+. We'll go A+, pretty close.
Yeah, Greg touched on it a little bit. The problem with our very own chair is that, unfortunately, our very own chair really wasn't designed for someone like me. The focus of this chair was people that are using their chair in their home office environment, where they're working at their desk, gaming at their desk, swiveling their chair around, watching a movie, just using their chair all day long. So it needs to hold up to that abuse. And then we also specifically made it for taller people that weren't necessarily big and tall, so just tall. And so the seat height alone makes it a little bit awkward for me, just because I need a footrest right out of the chute. Even if I put it at the lowest height, I need a footrest, especially because it has that knee tilt. So it's going to bump my feet up a little bit if I don't have a footrest. And then it does feel a little bit too wide for me, mainly in the armrest, and then the backrest and the headrest feel a little bit tall. So comfort-wise, I really like the seat. I think the backrest is comfortable. One drawback is I can't do my Russian twist. It's going to be closer to that, like car seat feel instead of like an Embody. But foam, very comfortable. Headrest, very comfortable. I actually think the armrests are pretty comfortable. Greg talked about how they don't have quite the adjustability we want, but the pads themselves are good. Overall, I'd probably be like a B+, A-, mainly due to fit issues, but that's kind of the way that the chair was designed. So B+ for me.
Yeah, so I got a lot of similar thoughts. Being a little taller, I do fit in this chair better, that I don't need to have a footrest necessarily. The back feels good. There's really plenty of space for me there, and even the seat depth is plenty. So, and really the headrest is my favorite part, so that probably S-tier headrest. But because of some of those things, not having all the flexibility of other chairs, it's going to be kind of on the lower A tier for me. So it's going to average out to kind of that mid to lower A tier.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap up our comfort tier list of 2025. If there's any chairs we missed and you want to see, leave a comment down below. Appreciate you for watching.